Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Beyond the Pivot, the podcast that takes you to what is happening in African and now Zambian startup ecosystem. It's me, Martin Vitek, and with me today is Kabvela Malupande. And today we're going to be talking about African fintech sector, and it will be a big first for us because for the first time we'll have a guest. The guest will be Muchu Kaingu. I hope I didn't butcher his last name, but I will let Kabula to say something a little bit about our guest before we get to our news of the day and a little bit of intro to what fintech is.
Absolutely, yeah. Today's an exciting session for us. Super excited since for the first time we're having a guest on our podcast. Maybe that will get our number of subscribers from 15 to, I don't know, 16, which will be great. But today we have our guest who will be joining us soon. And his name is Muchu Kaingu. He's the CTO of a startup called Lupiya. And you hear so much about Lupiya, which is a fintech based in Zambia. And it's super amazing. So today we're talking fintechs and everything related to that space. But before we get into it or even have our guest on board, Martin, any news for the week or anything exciting happening that you'd like to share?
Thank you, Kabla. So today's news is not about some exit or about anybody getting funded. It is about digital infrastructure. Seemingly boring topic, but in our perspective, very interesting to me that there is a company called Paratus that is based in Botswana, and it's now expanding its digital highways across Southern Africa. So their main goal is to connect the Equiano subsea cable and SADC highway between South Africa and Egypt. So right now they are creating this, let's say, circle that's linking Gaborone, Livingstone, and key regions in Zimbabwe through fiber optic cables. And this not only makes possible for reliable internet that will be available to rural areas and even faster internet in the cities of these countries, but now it also makes it possible that the latency will be lower, redundancy for existing connections will be lower, and more people will be able to create digital innovations or participate in the digital economy. So it is a building block for the expansion of digital tools in the Southern African region. And the Paratus is in 7 African countries so far. It's Angola, Botswana, Democratic Republic of Congo, Mozambique, Namibia, South Africa, and Zambia. And now getting to Zimbabwe as well. But its network reaches beyond the continent. They have international points of presence in the United Kingdom, across European countries, and the United States. So it's a giant company that makes this accessibility of digital innovation possible. What do you think about it?
Yeah, it's super exciting because, and I would like us to talk a bit more about how we get internet. I think we usually take it for granted that everybody understands how we get internet. So these undersea cables and inland connectivity, I think, is very key through the fiber optic cables. And we've seen quite a significant rise in the number of undersea cables that are connecting Africa to the rest of the world and receiving internet. So yeah, that's a great milestone, and glad to see that expansion happening in the region. And I think it ties so well to the conversation that we're having today, which is fintechs. Fintechs cannot work if we do not have access to reliable and fast internet services. And so definitely Paratus and others are playing a key role in making sure that we have that digital inclusion across different parts of Africa.
Well, you already started to talk about fintech, so let's kind of frame the stage for our today's guest. Could you tell me about what is so intriguing about fintechs for African founders, and maybe how big is the market in Africa and in Southern Africa, where you are in your region?
Great question. Thank you so much, Martin. We definitely have seen a rise on fintechs on the continent with over 5,200 startups, half of them that have been started. You will see that half of them and majority of them is in the fintech space. Why is this the case? One might ask. We've talked about this in the previous episode where you will see that in order for the e-commerce or startup economy to work, e-commerce has to work, and fintechs, logistics, all of these get to play a key role in setting up that critical infrastructure that will enable startups and technology companies to work. So yeah, it's a no-brainer that we're seeing more fintechs, and I'm glad that we're actually having that infrastructure being built. In terms of transaction value, this year alone, we've seen close to about 195 billion in transaction value being transacted across fintechs on the continent, and this is expected to increase even by 2025. Close to about 50%. So it's quite significant and a huge jump in terms of transaction value of money being transferred on the continent through fintechs. And also, it's great to note and also mention that in our case, it's not so much about technology the technology that facilitates these transactions to happen, but it also borders down on the impact side, which is inclusion. As you know, Africa has one of the youngest populations. And so with that, we have young people that are accessing these smartphones, these digital services for the first time. And not only beyond just the young people in rural areas and other parts of the continent have never even transacted on a digital platform. And what these fintechs and technologies are doing is providing that opportunity for them to participate in trade and economic activities in the different countries as well. We're aware, most of you know M-Pesa, which originated from Kenya, and they have been leading this mobile money technology, or at least pioneering it. And it all began from there, where we saw that it doesn't take someone having a smartphone for you to access financial services, but even with a simple feature phone. Again, I have to be mindful, some people don't even understand what a feature phone is. Well, a feature phone is a tiny phone that doesn't even have access to like an internet connectivity, but basically you are able to use it for basic functionalities like messaging, phone calls. And through that same feature phone, imagine someone in a rural part of the country being able to access financial services. And this is access to a small bank account. Think of it as a bank account. They can have access to loan services, credit services, and that's a huge milestone in this particular space. So we're seeing a lot more of that happening across the continent, Southern Africa, multiple other regions. And one of those startups or fintechs that are leading in the fintech space or startup space in Zambia is Lupiya. And I'll be happy to just soon introduce you to our guest who will tell us more about the amazing things that they've been doing at Lupiya and how exactly they're providing this financial inclusion for multiple other people and users that they have on their platform.
Thank you, Kabila. I was just holding my breath. So it was very informative. There is no more questions I want to ask. I had some ready, but you covered it all. So I think now it's a good time to introduce Muchu to join us at our call. And I will leave the honor to Kabila to say a few good words about Muchu. Kabila, please introduce our first guest ever.
Sure. Excited to have our first guest, Muchu Kaingu, as Martin mentioned. Muchu has been quite a key startup in our ecosystem, leading Lupiya, and also I think he's played, and I think founders don't get much credit for this, Muchu. I think you have played a key role in also just providing that mentorship, either through as a judge, startups reaching out to you and playing that key role in building other startups, and we're really grateful for that you're in our network, and happy to have you here. So in today's session, I know we talked about the fintech space just before you joined, some of the trends that are happening, the transaction value, which are in the billions across the continent, and even the growth that's coming in the next few years, 2025 all the way to 2030 and beyond. So today we're excited to have you and tell us about your journey, how it's been, and to maybe kick us off, we'll be happy to hear more about you. You can just give us a quick intro and Martin will take it up just with a few questions so that we learn more about Lupiya and what you're doing.
Well, and thanks for the kind words. My name is Muchu Kaingu, co-founder and CTO at Lupiya, an AI-powered Pan-African neobank serving millions of people across Africa. And I started my journey in retail. So I didn't start in banking. I started in retail and I joined the IT department of a multinational retail company in an IT support role. And then shortly after I joined them, I went on to lead the technology team. But then when I stayed there for 6 years, I decided to start a software consulting business. And after the software consulting business is when I launched Lupiya with my co-founder and wife, Evelyn, in 2016.
Thank you, Muchu, for the brief introduction of you. And I will follow up on A little something I learned about your wife, Evelyn, from her interviews on YouTube. And I want to know your opinion on it. She admitted that you guys like to play games. So I'm just curious, what kind of games are your favorites, and how much time do you actually have to play those games?
Yeah, we do love to play games. Unfortunately, there isn't enough time to play games. But then we play different types of games. It would be video games. If we're playing video games, then it's Mortal Kombat. And then we also play board games. So Monopoly is our favorite with strategy games. So we love playing Monopoly. And there's a game called Risk. Ultimately, that's about building your empire. So and then in the physical world, we play golf together. So we have different layers of games that we play together.
I have to say that's a marvel that you are still married. Playing Mortal Kombat and Monopoly with your wife. That's
He's a
that's
lucky
quite
guy.
courageous. I have to say.
And she's very good at it, by the way.
Oh, really? And coming to it, I think you mentioned that you were registered or started Lupiya in 2016. I think that puts you just about 8 years since you have been building. And as
Yes.
everybody says, many people think of you as an overnight success, right? And I would like to believe the success that we're seeing today has actually taken 8 years and it wasn't overnight. Could you maybe just tell us a bit more about what inspired you to start Lupiya and what some of the most significant challenges were in the beginning as you were starting out?
Yeah. So thanks for that question. I'll just take it a few steps back just to tell you about our journey starting Lupiya in 2016. Evelyn and I were running a trading business before that together. And we faced challenges accessing capital for that business. And we couldn't see any light at the end of that tunnel. We went to our bank. We couldn't qualify for a loan there. We went to the informal market, and the interest rates were as high as 30% per month. So, and we looked around us and we saw that a lot of people like us, entrepreneurs, were facing a similar challenge in Africa. And we had this crazy idea that we could start a bank with $500. And as I think back now, it was a crazy idea and a big dream. I'm happy that we are now a few steps closer to building that Pan-African neobank.
So how did you spend those first $500? Well, how did you spend that? That you managed to grow those $500 to having a Pan-African neobank. That's amazing story.
Thank you. Yeah, so the first $500, when we realized that we're not so crazy after all, is when we saw that $500 could impact 18 women that were part of a community group. So we did lend it to 18 women, and those women used it as working capital. And we saw that, okay, with such a small amount of money, relatively small amount of money, $500, we could impact so many people. And we saw that what we're doing could easily be scalable.
And yeah, I'm just curious. So talking about having $500 and building a bank, I mean, there would be so much questions you'd be asking yourself, maybe filled with even doubt, right? But was there, I think, a person, an event, or anything that really unexpectedly shaped or solidified your vision for actually going ahead and building Lupiya?
See, both Evelyn and I were coming from a background where we had run businesses before. And then what really helped us early on in our journey is that we participated in incubator and accelerator programs. So that those really shaped our thinking around how to start a business and how to then scale a business in such a way that when we started with that $500, we knew what the next steps would look like. We knew that those early years would be quite difficult because we needed to bootstrap the business with our own resources. We knew that. And I think this context is a little bit more relevant for Africa than for the rest of the world, because in Africa, before anyone even thinks about backing you, they want to know how much you've been able to achieve on your own. So this element of bootstrapping is super important for African startups. And just knowing that early on really saved us from a lot of frustration.
And do you think that the experience that you had from other businesses also help you to kind of evaluate who is more risky, who is less risky when you are giving out the loans now? You were better to empathize with them because you knew what they are going through. You are not just like some corporate bank officer.
Yes, so that's actually a great question. The experience from previous businesses and actually making credit decisions was only good to a certain extent because ultimately we needed to pay the school fees in lending. We needed to make some bad decisions in this business to really learn who to lend to, and then to build out the technology that would then help us make better decisions going forward. So those early days, a lot of people would have been discouraged because those early days had a high default rates. But for us, in the back of our minds, we knew that this was an element of learning and seeing what's to improve. And in the long run, it has paid off.
Can I ask you, like, what is the high default rate and what is it now, so we know how you moved and what it actually means, because it could be different in Africa and different in where I am from, Czech Republic.
Yeah, so like for example, the first $500, 50% of it went into default. So
okay, and nowadays,
and nowadays we're talking about 8 to 9% default rate. So,
that's a significant improvement. It's not just a few money.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
What was the process that led you to that improvement? What is what is like that lesson you got, but also how it looks now? So it's only 8%.
So it's data driven, right? Just ensuring that from the early stages we're collecting the data and analyzing it and seeing what was leading to the default, and then ensuring that we kept improving our lending model to adapt to those different scenarios. We're in this position where we are constantly improving, and true to the nature of your podcast, we're constantly pivoting. So that element of always failing forward and always improving the model. And right now, I'm super excited that in the next few days, we will be launching an instant loan where all the credit decision is completely automated using an AI algorithm. So you can see that the business is always improving, and that's what led to this massive improvement.
And just right there, Muchu, in case someone missed it and they're confused about what Lupiya does, maybe I'll appreciate, because I wanted to ask what the loan process looks like, but maybe just a step back, I'll be happy for you to just maybe give a brief overview to the problem that you solve and what the loan process looks like from the time that someone applies for a loan and the time that they get a payment for it.
Thanks for that question. Sometimes it's easy to forget to do a proper intro of Lupiya and everything that we do. Yeah, but we have three value propositions. The first one is in digital lending. So lending to folks who wouldn't ordinarily qualify for loans from traditional institutions such as banks and microfinance institutions. But now we've done so well in that line of business that now we're adding a peripheral value proposition. So we launched our peer-to-peer investments platform a year ago, and now we're also adding a layer of payments. We're launching a wallet where we're going to have store of value, and our customers can leverage that store of value for investments, for paying their peers, to paying for bills. And on top of that, we're going to add a card that both physical and virtual card that our customers can use to pay for different things.
Yeah, and with that, could you maybe just take us through what the lending process looks like now for your traditional target user?
Great, thanks. So at the moment, our users come to our website, lupiya.com, and then they see the types of loans that we offer. They choose the one that they want, and then they fill in a simple form, and within 24 hours, they can qualify for a loan and get it disbursed to their bank account or wallet. And then soon, in the next few days, how we are improving that process is through our mobile app. So customers who download the mobile app, they'll just fill in a short form, on the mobile app, just giving us their KYC details, and immediately they apply for a loan. Within 30 seconds, that loan will be disbursed to their wallet. So this is our instant loan proposition. We're very excited about this, and we believe that it will make some serious impact in the market.
I have two follow-up questions on that. First one is that if I have a horrible credit score, or what is the one thing I should improve right away to have a chance with Lupiya? Is there something that is more heavier scaled, or more important than other factor in that credit thing, in the credit score rating? And the second question is, I assume that this is very heavy on internet usage, or this AI credit score lending, and you will have to have a decent internet. Is there an issue in spreading Lupiya across more people, the internet access to having the mobile app and stuff like that?
So maybe I'll answer your first question first. How to improve your credit score? Yes, definitely it does help for you to ensure that you pay back debt that you get from other lenders. That's super useful. And the other thing is it's about habits. So we now, using AI, we're looking at a borrower's character based on their digital footprint. So these breadcrumbs that you leave on your device, I'm not sure how easily someone would change that, but really it's habits such as gambling, right? So if you're a gambler, for example, then it means that you would be a risky borrower to us. But it's very nuanced. And we're looking at different data points, metadata. We're looking at the type of apps that you have installed on your device and that sort of thing. So yeah, so it's
That's interesting. So do I have to, as a borrower, connect to or give you my mobile money statements, and then you will analyze the mobile money statements and see if I bought that magazine, or bought too much beer that month, or is that how does it actually look like in practice? Because I never heard of such a thing before, so it's very interesting to me, and I want to know if I would even qualify afterwards, if that's too much beer spending or something like that.
So we've veered away from the traditional type of credit scoring. So we don't need to look at your mobile money statements. We just base it on your device data, and it's got nothing to do with your transactions. So yeah.
And how do you access them? How do you access the device data? I still don't understand. Do you log into my into my phone or into my computer? Are you hacking me right away? Or how does it look like?
I mean, it's private. It's privacy compliant data. Otherwise, our app wouldn't be on the App Store or on the Play Store, because they're very rigorous with how apps collect data. But then, yeah, the app collects data from your device in a compliant way.
All right. And what about the internet usage? Is it a issue that only, let's say, 20% of people in Zambia or Tanzania now have regular access to internet, or no problem?
So the heavy lifting is done in the cloud. So all the credit scoring is done in the cloud. All the device needs to do is just submit a small data packet. And that can happen on not even your broadband internet. It can happen on a 3G connection or something like that. So it's not heavily reliant on the internet.
So it's accessible for everybody pretty much. As long as you can get a 3G for a couple of minutes, you are the client potentially.
Correct.
Perfect.
I'd also be interested to know, Muchu, because again, for the sake of our audience, some don't even have context of how tiny or how big Lupiya is, right? Could you tell us also about just your growth journey and what your growth plans are based on where you are currently? It could be from a fundraising perspective, or also maybe from a revenue perspective, if you're comfortable sharing that as well.
Yeah. So and this it gives me a lot of joy to say this these days, starting with that $500 and growing it to a multi-million-dollar business, Pan-African business. Without getting deep into the numbers, we have raised over 15 million US dollars to date. And we're currently in 2 countries, Zambia and Tanzania. And next year we're launching in Malawi. So it's very exciting times for Lupiya.
That's brilliant. And also, I know we talk about this, maybe you've come across it as well. When many investors or people look at Zambia, they see, oh, it's a tiny country in the middle of nowhere, right? But the opportunity lies in the numbers that our neighbors bring us, since we're a landlocked country, close to about 300 million, population of 300 million. What informed your expansion decisions to the countries that you're currently in, let's say Tanzania, and now you're looking at Malawi? What informed that decision, and what market trends were similar that led you to moving to those countries?
Yeah, so if you think about Tanzania, is 3 times the size of Zambia, so that was very interesting for us. It's not rated as saturated as say Kenya, but it has a very good technology backbone where there's a lot of digitization that's happening. So it makes it easy for us to then leverage the existing digital infrastructure to then reach our customers. So for us, and then the other thing that's good about Tanzania is a stable economy without a lot of currency fluctuations. So for us, that was a natural extension to get to that market. In Malawi, the culture is very much the same as Zambia. In fact, a lot of my friends say it's as if Malawi is a province of Zambia. People are the same.
Correct.
So expanding to that market is just like natural, a natural pit stop before we go to the next market. We'll be looking at Kenya in the near future. We'll be looking at Namibia. We'll be looking at Botswana. But then we pick what we might construe as the lowest hanging fruit, and then we move on from that point.
And what is the toughest things about going to the new countries, to new market? Is it the regulation, team? You don't have to translate anything. That's nice. Everything is in English. But apart from that, what do you think was the biggest challenge?
Yeah, I think it's can be termed as every time you go to a new country, it's like you're launching a mini startup. The regulation, for example, is not the same. So you have to apply for new licenses. You have to set up a new team and whatnot. So you're starting like a mini startup every time you go to a different country. And that can have its own challenges. There are models that we've also leveraged where we can layer Lupiya on an existing partner. Perhaps that eases that process a little bit, but then it also comes with its own challenges. So when you weigh the pros and cons, we found that for us, it makes sense for us to register a subsidiary in every country.
So Lupiya has its own company, like Lupiya Malawi, Lupiya Tanzania, Lupiya Zambia is like 3 different companies that are under one umbrella, let's say, and that allows you to be more flexible at the market.
Correct.
That's nice. Yeah. I was always wondering how it works because I'm used to it, from European Union. If you are registered in Czech Republic or Germany, it doesn't matter. As long as you can get their product there and you follow their laws, you can just do it from Czech Republic. So I was curious. I know that Zambia is part of, I think, ECOWAS or maybe a different commercial group of countries. Sorry, SAIC. So is that does it play any role? Does it help you in any way in the expansion?
It's still. I mean, it's not as convenient as it would be in Europe, for example. I think there's a lot of improvement that can be done to the model to ensure that companies can operate across borders. Our experience is that we're almost starting afresh in every country, like starting a little startup in that country. So I think that can be better, like from a regulatory perspective.
And from that perspective, given the policy headers and regulations that you might be facing in each one of these countries that you operate, are there any policies that you're advocating for, or things that you'd like to see more that we enable a lot more startups to thrive that are coming behind you?
Yes, I mean, it's simplifying the regulatory framework. When similar to what Martin said, if we can have central banks collaborating in such a way that when I get a license in Zambia, I can operate in the region, I think that would be super, super useful.
That would really be a game changer, right?
Yeah.
So going back to, you said you started with $500, but I'm sure you had to get some first investment in the beginning. And then now you said you raised over $12 million, if I remember correctly, or it's $12 million company. So what was the first step? What was your first investment that like gave you the hope that you can build this? Now I'm gonna call it monstrum, but it's not a monstrum. This beauty that is spanning, 3 countries, going to more countries afterwards. Was that your first? Who believed you first that like made you okay? This is it. I can do it. Except your wife, of course. We have to mention her. But
Yeah, so it's we did friends and family, but I don't think that was adequate to make us dream as big as we have. I think the first the real turning point was our seed investor. They're called Enigma Ventures, and they invested $1 million at the peak of COVID, and that was a game changer for us, because after that we've just grown from strength to strength.
I saw that during COVID, maybe 1 year after, you also were visited by Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris, and
Yes.
that you guys talked about how America wants to do $7 billion into agribusiness and agri entrepreneurs, which I believe are mostly your clients as well. So
Yes.
I just am wondering, did you see any impact of the money, or did it even happen, or was it just nice article and you get to meet the vice president, which is cool too? But what was the impact of it in the end?
Yeah, the wheels of the government, they move slower than we would like in the startup world. So we started seeing some benefits trickling in, and we're hopeful that we will see the benefits to the scale of what we discussed with them.
What do you think those benefits going to be? What do you want to see on the ground at the benefit of the money?
So definitely more capital inflows, like some of the partners that we're already discussing with. At least there's light at the end of the tunnel. We can see that some of those funds will start flowing in. Yeah, so we're very hopeful for that, because the discussions have started. So now it's just a variable of time as to when we see the full extent of the support being unlocked.
And also, Muchu, has it become any easier to raise funding now that you've seen this level of scale and success, or what certain hurdles do you still face that you think we might still need to work on, either as a continent or as a country?
Yeah, it's a great question, because it's one of my philosophies. I always tell people that it doesn't get easier; you just get stronger. And the challenges at a larger scale, you just face bigger challenges that you need to overcome. I wouldn't say it's become entirely easier, but it definitely helps to be in the position that we are in right now. Having learned all the things that we've learned over the years, having built a resilient business, yeah, it does make things better, but I wouldn't say easy. I wouldn't use the word easy. If it was easy, then I think everybody would be doing it.
Correct. And what then would be like, having been through this fundraising journey? I know you have those investors that said no, and you're like, hey, see, look at us. No, I'm kidding. But for someone who might be interested in investing in African startups, and this is a basis for why we want to have these conversations, to spotlight startups that are doing amazing things in different ecosystems. But for someone who's thinking of beginning their investment journey in African startups, what advice would you have for them as they go on that journey?
Yeah, so first to understand the market. The African market has huge potential. I think some of the things that would be apparent to someone immediately would be discouraging. You might think like, oh, there's nothing much going on in Africa. But if you look deeper, and you see examples of people who got into the market early. If you think about the success of mobile money in Africa, mobile money right now, $4 billion US dollars is transacted in mobile money every single day in Africa, accounting for 50% of the mobile money transactions in the world. That just shows the scale of the opportunity in Africa. I believe strongly that the next frontier is artificial intelligence. We're a few years behind the rest of the world, but that doesn't mean that the opportunity is small. In Africa, it's huge, because Africa has huge systemic problems that can be easily resolved by automation, and this is the best time to invest in that technology. So think about energy. We have energy deficits all over Africa. Talk about infrastructure, connectivity, all of these things. Africa is a great place, but then a lot of investors would just look at it in face value and say, oh, there's a lot of problems in Africa, so maybe I'll stay away. But I think they must look at those problems as huge opportunities for upside.
Absolutely. I know that Kabila also mentioned the benefit of the young population that is more and more kind of growing up with the technology. So you don't have to teach them how to use a phone or something like that, or they understand mobile money. So alongside with, like you said, looking at the problems as opportunities and creating new value chains, or maybe just replicating the value chains that exist somewhere else. Also, the biggest advantage for me is the young population, because those
Correct.
people are going to become older, they will become richer, and they will want to spend their money.
Correct.
Ultimately, like anywhere in the world. So what do you think, if you would be building a new startup today, what do you think would be the sector or place you would look into?
Two things, AI and blockchain.
And any particular use case you have in mind?
So I think we're at the stage in Africa where we need to build foundational models. So I would definitely invest in foundational models for Africa.
So would it be more like for blockchain, I assume legal contracts, or something that you don't need a lawyer, but maybe you can do something yourself on this technology? Or would it be some different use case that you see for the foundations of value chains?
So for the foundation models, I made that in reference with AI. And then for blockchain, just cross-border payments. There's still a nightmare in Africa. I would definitely leverage blockchain for cross-border payments.
So that's what you're telling us that you're going to be doing in Lupiya in a year.
You never know. And also, Muchu, I would like to find out, I know you are limited on time. I'll just like to be mindful of that. I am aware you mentioned that you've been part of various programs, entrepreneurship programs. You are a Google-backed startup as well. Could you tell us maybe about the influence of such programs to the growth of where you are at right now at Lupiya?
So that's a great question, because these programs shape your thinking as an entrepreneur, especially in the early stages. You put you in a position where you know what to expect and you know what to do in your business in order to unlock the next level. And then even down in the journey of the startup, programs help you unlock networks, investor networks, mentor networks. You get resources from these programs, cloud credits, for example. Rather than spending thousands of US dollars on hosting your platform, you could leverage cloud credits for that. And we have done in the history of Lupiya. To date, we're talking about over 300, 400,000 US dollars worth of cloud credits. This is money that we've saved from our balance sheet. So you can see that the value is quite immense.
And in closing, Muchu, what are you looking forward to? I know you've mentioned the app that you're launching soon with the instant payments. By the way, 30 seconds, that's super fast and amazing. I think you will be leaders in the space. I'm yet to find anyone in the market that is offering loan processing at that speed. So congratulations on that particular technology and milestone that you will be reaching. But beyond all of that, what are you really looking forward to in 2025 as we end the year?
I think it's consolidating our value proposition. The wallet will increasingly play an important role in the Lupiya ecosystem. Our loans will be disbursed to that wallet. That wallet will be then leveraged for payments. Through this, our customers will enjoy a fluid user experience, and we're going to continue adding more and more AI technology to our stack, ensuring that our customers are served better. We can understand our customers better. So I think we're at that exciting stage in our journey where a lot of the things that we dreamt about when we were starting this business are now coming to play. Before this, we perhaps wouldn't have construed ourselves as a neobank. But when we add this consolidation of the different offerings to our customer, then you can say that Lupiya is a real alternative to traditional banks. And we can now construe ourselves as a neobank.
Muchu, I would say to close this wonderful interview for me, wonderful conversation, to congratulate you, because that work you have done is incredible, and I cannot wait for you to expand all the way to Europe so I can start using it as well. And
thank you, Martin.
Of course, thank you also for making time to chat with us and be our first guest. Every time being a first is the toughest, and like you said, it's a pivoting moment for us as well today. So thank you again, and best of luck in the year 2025.
Thank you, Martin. Thanks, Capuela. Really appreciate, and I hope that your podcast will be successful, and I hope that this will be one of many episodes. I'm eager to follow your journey.
So you are telling
Thank
we
you.
gained a 16th subscriber today. New subscriber
Correct.
today, Muchu Kaingu.
Yes.
Yes, we
Yes,
are
you
growing.
did.
And Muchu, where can our guests find you? How can they find you if they wanted to reach out to you, have a conversation?
I'm most active on LinkedIn. So they can just search for my names on LinkedIn.
Wonderful.
Perfect. Awesome. We've come to the end of our episode today. Again, a big thank you to our guest Muchu, and we'll always bring, as you know, on the Beyond the Pivot, we'll always bring to you conversations and knowledge about the different African ecosystems, insights from startups that are fundraising, leadership lessons, and everything to do with startups. So thanks for joining in, and we hope to see you next time on the Beyond the Pivot podcast.